Hi, my name's Olivia, I like movies, and I watched 23 of them in the month of August. Now, I still haven't reached my goal of watching 30 films in 1 month. However, 23 is actually my personal best for 1 month, so I'm happy with that regardless. I did film a video for July, however, I didn't upload it because there were just a few problems, like my microphone wasn't working, it was making weird sounds, and then a lot of the films that I did watch were re-watches, and not just films I've seen once before, but films I've seen over and over and over again, and the films that everyone has seen a lot of times, like Harry Potter, etc. So it did kind of look like I couldn't get excited about anything I was talking about. It just wasn't a very good video. So we skipped that month and we're just going to talk about what I watched in August instead. So it is now September. I'm in a very spooky mood. I have new Halloween bed sheets. We have these little skeleton men dancing in the moonlight, and it's very fun and I like it very much. So expect lots of creepy, spooky Halloween scary films coming up in the next couple months, because that is really what I'm in the mood to watch now. But just like last time, I may potentially, almost certainly will spoil the films I'm going to be talking about today, so here they are. If you don't want to know, skip over it. And one last thing before we get into it, I have a cold right now, so if you don't like the sound of sniffling, I'm sorry. So the first time I watched this month was I Saw the TV Glow. Now this was an amazing start to the month because this was a really, really amazing film. I've been noticing lately that my favourite kind of movies are the ones that, even though they're 90 minutes, 2 hours long, I could literally sit there and watch it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours if it was that long, and I'd be happy about it. I just love when it creates a really cozy feeling, and I just want to be in that world and feel what they're feeling. This was definitely on the darker side, but there were some really nice funny moments in there as well, which sort of broke it up a little bit, and it kind of had a sad ending, I guess. Our main guy didn't even really get to be who he probably wanted to be in life, but you know. I think we just had a power cut, and that was actually the scariest moment of my whole life. I hate the dark. My heart is racing right now. I need to call my mum to make sure it actually was a power cut and not a ghost. Okay. I was sat in my room and it just went pitch black. I was so scared. It wasn't a ghost, it was a power cut. What was I saying? So this film was really good. It was a sad ending because clearly our main character didn't get to live out the life that he was probably meant to in his heart, but that's just life sometimes, you know? If you don't watch this film, I at least ask you to please listen to Claw Machine. It is a song on the soundtrack and it is so good and I love it. Okay, so film number 2 was Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, if I did actually upload the video from July, you would know that I have actually seen this twice before, so this was my third watch. I won't go into why I for some reason ended up watching it so many times, but it was consistently good every single time. I thought that this was amazing. It's definitely the best Deadpool film. To all the people that think that this was a bad film, I think they genuinely just hate fun, because not every film has to be this hard-hitting, deep, psychological kind of film. Like, this was, yes, it was very satisfying, it was very fourth wall breaky, but I love it, and it's a Deadpool film. Like, what were you expecting going in, you know? I love the soundtrack. Every single joke, in my opinion, hit. And the way I actually gasped in the cinema when Blade walked in. And no one else did. Haters gonna hate. And that's okay. Film number 3 was Tag. This is a good film. I've seen it actually quite a few times now for some reason, and every single time I expect Jason Bateman to show up, but I know he's not in it, but I just feel like he should be in it. You know what I mean? Movie number 4 was Cabin in the Woods. Now, I have just looked this film up, and apparently they're teens. At no point did I think that these people were teenagers, but I guess that's just movies. I watched the first 20-ish minutes of this film a couple years ago actually, and then far enough to see the people behind the cameras, so I assumed that this was like some kind of escape room situation where people were just watching them, betting on them, and it wasn't supernatural anyway. But this time actually watching the whole way through, I thought it was really, really cool. I like the way they make them play the stereotypes, even though they're not actually the stereotypes, but just to make it like fit the story, they force them into it, and that way you get the story to play out in a traditional horror way, but it's a bit more self-aware. And I really like the way it ended. Why must we save the planet, you know? We've lived here long enough. Let the gods come and do whatever they want to do, you know? So next I watched Miller's Crossing. This felt like a very toned down Coen film. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's just how it felt. At no point did I know where this film was going. I always thought it was over for our main guy, and then he just manages to turn it around somehow. Definitely left me guessing what was happening next. He really just let himself get beaten up by so many people. I feel like there were enough times throughout this film where he didn't need to get in a fight, and he never won the fights, he just kept getting beaten up, but I guess it was a part of his plan, maybe? I found some of the reoccurring gags very funny, but overall, I don't think this story really spoke to me personally. But it's still a really good film, the acting was really good. Films from the Coen brothers probably are some of my all-time favourites, but yeah, it's just not really for me, this one, but it was still really good, and if you get a chance to watch it, why not? Go ahead. Moon is an interesting one. It's very small, if you know what I mean. Like, I think it would be though. It's, you know, a one-person actor playing 2 or 3 or more versions of himself, clones, and it's a fun little one. I really like the robot because I feel usually the robot in these kinds of situations might end up turning on the human because programming or whatever, but I really liked how even when he was trying to hack into the system, the robot came and helped him just because that's what he's there for, is to help him, and it was so sweet. I really liked that. I have seen this a couple times when I was a kid, and I really didn't remember the story very much other than that Sam Rockwell was a clone in space, but I like the way it plays out, and it's a good film. Also, Sam Rockwell is my second favourite actor after Steve Buscemi, so I pretty much enjoy anything that he does. And if you're a fan of Sam Rockwell like me, then this is the film for you. The next one I watched was Trap. I have a love-hate relationship with M. Night Shyamalan's films. Some of them I love, some of them I hate. This one was probably more in the middle. I liked the story. I thought the concept was really fun, like a lot of his films are, but the main thing that was just bugging me so much throughout the whole film was, why are all these people just outside of the show? Inside the building, but not watching the show. I have been to so many concerts and they don't look like this. They do not look like this, because why are they just milling around? Why are they out buying food, just hanging out, chatting? I can understand like going to the toilet, but the concert is literally happening and they're all just outside. I get that if there wasn't people, then he'd be the only one wandering around and he'd be really suspicious, so that's why they needed the crowds, but that whole part just made no sense to me. My favourite part was actually after they'd left the concert, because I didn't know it was going to continue further than just the duration of the concert, but as soon as they got home and the mum comes out of the house, I thought, what the heck is the drummer from Sex Bomb doing here? Because in my head she's like a teenager, but she was the best part of this film. Her performance was so good. I was very convinced, and she really brought this kind of feeling, you know? I think the word nepotism gets thrown around a bit loosely these days, because I'm pretty sure he came up with this story because his daughter is a musician and they wanted to work together, so they created this film that had a concert in it so she could be the artist, and I think that's amazing. He's literally living the dream, in my opinion. He gets to write what he wants, make what he wants, work with his family, which I've grown up in a family business, and I really appreciate what comes with being able to share a workplace with your family, and the fact that they get to be creative together I think is amazing, and I can only wish to be able to work the way that he does one day, because I think he's got it figured out, really. As a kid, I remember this film being the worst one of the series, but actually Step Up 1 is really good, okay? He was really good in this. I really liked the romance in this film, had me giggling the whole time. Somewhere near the beginning of this film, the principal or whoever she is says that the damage that, what's his name, Tyler, caused at their school cost someone a scholarship, which I thought was gonna sort of like turn back around on himself by the end, and then when he really wants to have the scholarship it's like, well, we can't afford it, blah blah blah, because what you did. But then that just never happened. He just got one. I guess they didn't want to go down that route, but that's fine. The Wolverine, more like the boring-reen. I'll be completely honest, I was playing the Suika game the whole time while this was playing, and my boyfriend was watching it, and I was just watching it, but not really watching it. But what the hell was going on with this romance? Because they had absolutely zero chemistry, and I didn't even realise they were romantic interests till way late in the film. I just did not get that. It was cool when he was fighting them on the roof of the train. A bit, I guess. Step Up 2 is the worst of the Step Up films. So the man that I bought the DVD from in the CEX, you're wrong. Because he thought it was the best one, and he thought that Step Up 3 was the worst one. Which is an absolutely insane take, by the way, because Step Up 3 is the best one. It's not just the best Step Up film, it's actually just one of the best films of all time. The guy that plays the main guy, the love interest, I don't even know what his name is, Robert Hoffman. So I've only ever seen him in two other roles. One is Aliens in the Attic, where he plays the older and, is he abusive? I don't know, he's just a bad boyfriend and a loser, and he doesn't get the girl in the end. The second film that I've seen him in is She's the Man, where he plays the older, not good boyfriend who doesn't end up with the girl in the end. And he plays those roles really well. So seeing him in a Step Up 2, where he's supposed to be this charming, charismatic, cool, handsome man, is really weird. And honestly just was a really bad idea, because he was just so goofy. Mainly because this was a 28-year-old man, I'm pretty sure, when they filmed this, playing a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. It looked really bad. It literally looked like one of the teachers had put on a baseball cap and was trying to blend in with the kids. So that definitely ruined the majority of this film was because they casted him. Like, no offense, he could dance, he can act, but this wasn't very good casting, I'm sorry. The best scene in this film was honestly right at the beginning, when we had Channing Tatum in it from Step Up 1, providing our little universal connection between these two films. But once he'd left, it really went downhill. This was our first introduction to Moose, who is one of the best characters in cinema history. And since I was a kid, I not wanted to be like Moose, but I wanted to be Moose. Maybe one day when I grow up I will be. Strays is not a good film. This was a bad film. The next film I watched was Alien Romulus. I'm sorry to admit that I haven't actually seen any of the original Alien films, so a few callbacks and references definitely went straight over my head. But Alien Romulus is a horror film. This is not a sci-fi, this is a horror film. I was so scared. Not only is it scary, but it is disgusting. At two separate moments in this film, I actually gagged because it was so gross. The characters were all pretty annoying, like I didn't want any of them to survive other than Andy. He was so cool. He was so cute when he was being his like more boyish self. And then the second that he switched, he grabbed that alien thing and was all smart. Oh, so cool. Love him. The pregnant girl literally died like 3 times before she actually died. And that horrible baby man alien thing, what? Disgusting. disgusting. It wasn't that bad of a film though. I thought it was pretty good. My mum hated it for some reason, but I thought it was fine. Seeing Katie Spaney in Alien Romulus made me really want to rewatch Civil War. I'd only seen this once before in the cinema, and it definitely wasn't as good seeing it on a television screen. Being in the cinema with the huge screen and the really loud speakers was absolutely amazing. It still was really good this time around, but I think it needs that cinema viewing experience to make it the best that it could be. It's very apolitical in terms of real world politics. We don't know what side is really the right or wrong side, which I like it when films do that. Some people don't like it when films do that, but I felt definitely in this situation it was supposed to be a why are we even doing this kind of thing. You know, we're all one country. I don't know, I'm saying we, I'm not from America. If I'm being really honest, I think if this had a different soundtrack, I wouldn't like this film as much. I wouldn't have found it as engaging, but the music just fit so well. Actually, no, it didn't fit. I remember when I first watched it, every song over each scene felt so out of place, but for some reason it just worked so well, and honestly, I think the soundtrack makes this film. But I really do recommend this. I think it's really good. Film number 14 was The Burbs. I love this film. I saw it one time when I was about 11 or 12, and I couldn't remember what actually happened. I just remember finding it really funny. So we rewatched this because for some reason 80s films for me, even if they don't have any kind of spooky or Halloween themes, I really feel like 80s films just hand themselves to a Halloween vibe. So I was in the mood to watch an 80s film, and this one actually is a Halloween-y kind of thing. It's a Rear Window kind of story, but instead of being stuck in a room, it's suburban people just being stuck in the suburbs, and it's so much fun just watching them mess about and get into trouble. And the story itself, like finding out whether these neighbours are actually doing anything bad or not, kind of didn't really care about it, but the antics and the high stakes are really fun and enjoyable to watch. So I watched It because I actually wanted to watch It Chapter 2, but my boyfriend hadn't seen the first It yet, so we watched this one first. We haven't watched the second one yet. We'll get round to it when we have a chance. This was not as scary as I remember it being, which I'm happy about, but also maybe it would have been better if it was scarier. The dynamic between all the main kids is really good. Bill Skarsgård is the perfect Pennywise, and I can't wait to watch the sequel because it's definitely the better of the two. To all the people that rated Step Up 3 badly on Letterboxd to give it an average of 2.9, there is actually something mentally wrong with you, because this film is perfect. The dance competition where Moose is late and he hits a pipe with his bike and there's water everywhere and they're dancing to Beggin' is one of the most iconic dancing cinematic scenes in history. Step Up 3 is definitely a step up from the first two films because it's not set in a school anymore. There are limits when you're writing stories around teenagers in school because they really only give them issues that teenagers have, and the stakes don't feel particularly high. But it can get quite silly and goofy at times. But we're moved out of the high school, Moose is in college, the rest of the characters are adults who just want to dance, and the main conflicts are not having enough money and trying to win the dance competition. So it feels more realistic in that sense, and I love this film. No one can ever make me not love this film. I wish I was Moose. The Host is a Bong Joon-ho film which I found the DVD of at a charity shop for 10p. I never heard of this film, but obviously we know that he is a very highly respected Korean director. I love Parasite and I was hoping I was gonna love this, but it was kind of eh. Many of the reviews that I was reading were really praising the social and ethical reflection in the story for the real world, but honestly, yeah, that was there, but the film itself wasn't that good enough to, I feel, grant the high ratings that it was getting purely just based on the meaning behind it, because a version of that, whether it's done really well, is Parasite. So for me, these two didn't really compare in quality. Either we get to see the monster basically right from the beginning. I don't really understand why the girl didn't die when everyone else did, or the kids didn't die, and then I don't know, I was kind of just a bit confused, to be honest. But this was good. It wasn't great. Not only did I watch The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, but I watched The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King Extended Edition. I wholeheartedly believe that if I had watched the normal length versions of The Lord of the Rings, I'd actually be a serious hardcore fan. However, my boyfriend only had the extended edition on DVD, so that's 4 to 5 hours per film. Completely full of stuff that doesn't need to be there. I'm much more of a Harry Potter person than Lord of the Rings, but this was, I think, the best one out of the 3. I have been slowly working my way through them over the past year and a bit, actually. So my memory is starting to get a bit muddled, but it was such a long journey and I'm so glad that it's over. But it was good. I actually did cry when everyone bowed down to the hobbits. I love the hobbits. The Goonies is actually just a bunch of kids screaming for 2 hours, but I love it. We've got a teeny tiny little Samwise Gamgee as a kid and an adorable teenage Josh Brolin. He was so cute. This film is so iconic that I think you could tell me every single thing that's wrong with it and I literally wouldn't care. These kids literally got to go on an actual treasure hunt with actual dangerous villains and actually save the town. What literal heroes. I'm gonna change my camera battery now, so if the angle is changed a little bit, that is why. There'll Be Blood was very noisy and also very quiet. I was expecting a twist. I didn't get a twist. We more just got an explosion and everything blew up at the end. This is down as one of the best films of all time and my mum thinks that it's amazing. My mum was raving about it when I told her that I was gonna watch it and she was telling me how good it was, and obviously I've seen all the reviews and I've heard about it so much, but I think it just wasn't for me. I wasn't the target audience for this, but I understand why people love it. But it wasn't for me. Come back to me when that oil explodes and they all just start dancing to Begging. Then I'll be interested. They both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. I watched Chicago for the first time and I loved it. I loved it so much that I've actually booked tickets to go see a live performance version because there is some company doing a UK tour starting next month, I think. So I am so excited to see that. This was fantastic. From what I'd seen of this film, I thought that there was going to be a lot more Catherine Zeta-Jones, but actually it was very much a Renee Zellweger film, and she was amazing. I loved the songs in this. The performances were so good, and I think it's really given me a good look into what the live stage version would look like based on the way that this was filmed. It really did feel like I was watching it on a stage, but it was a film. It was so good. I had no idea that it was set in a prison. I had no idea that it was about this court case and murder and oh, it was so exciting. All I'd ever seen were these sort of cabaret looking stage performances and I thought it was going to be something about that, but it was way more exciting than I thought it was going to be. And again, this falls into the category of films that could go on for 3 hours longer than they did and I would thoroughly enjoy it. So yeah, this was so good. I watched Top Gun Maverick again, and I'm not gonna talk anymore about Top Gun Maverick, but I watched Top Gun Maverick again. So the final film I watched this month was The Duff. I saw this film so many times when I was a teenager, and we watched this, my mum and I and my 13-year-old cousin, and we thought this is so targeted at her, she's totally gonna get this, and she really liked it, and it was so much fun. I've just now, off the top of my head, come up with a new acronym for The Duff. So it is definitely underrated funny film. Go watch it. Okay, so that is all the 23 films that I watched this month. The best film was... I was about to just come up with what I thought was the best one, but then I looked at the list again and I actually can't pick one because I loved Chicago, I loved Step Up 3, I saw the TV Glow was amazing, Deadpool and Wolverine was brilliant. I can't pick one. I love Civil War. It was just a good month. There were a couple weird ones in there, but it was a really good month overall. I hope that we can agree on some of my opinions, and if you disagree, tell me why. Leave me a comment, and maybe I'll see you next month if I remember. Bye bye.